them random.
What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Hip Hop Now Podcast Reviews. This is where I take a maybe highly anticipated album or just an album that's on the radar of numerous hip hop fans, whether they be fans of the artist or not, and I review that album. So far, as a new series, it's been doing pretty well for me, you know what I'm saying? So I figured I'd keep them going. Who knows, maybe spin it off into a different podcast all itself. But the point of this is to just let you know what's good. Is it good or is it not? Before we start, please follow on Twitter and Instagram at VegasWorldINC. And also know that if you want to support this podcast and become a producer of this podcast, all you got to do is join the Patreon gang. Visit patreon.com/hiphopnow to become a supporter of this very podcast. And if you were like, whoa, hold up, you're going too fast, I never heard of Patreon, the link is in the description of this episode. Now, so the album we are going to review today, or more like project, is Drake's new project, Dark Lane Demo Tapes. Now, Drake has this thing where he does album releases and then he does these side projects that are, I just said it, side projects that are basically loosies. If you don't know what loosies are, basically a bunch of records that he was just recording that don't have a destination, so he put them all on one album. Essentially similar to Nas's The Lost Tapes, except you don't have to wait 20 years for each one to come out. He just puts them out. Now, before I get into the project itself, I must put a disclaimer out there. Is the simple fact that as you enter this new age of 2020, nothing new, we know how we all consume content. It's totally different from back in the days. Some still consume content in the same ways, but the thing is Drake is a very polarizing artist, in the same vein somewhat as Eminem, and you have two fans, right? So I'm going to tell you straight up, if you are a diehard, I love everything Drake does, it's classic before I hear it type Drake fan, you're going to be happy regardless. If you're a person who hates Drake, you're not going to like any of it, right? But if you're a person who likes some records and don't, you might enjoy this project. And you're probably in that same like bracket as me. I guess I would say I was that. I'm a Drake fan, right? But I'm more of a fan of R&B Drake than I am of rapper Drake. Not saying that he can't rap, not saying that I don't enjoy when he raps on certain records, but I'm not hyped to hear new rap records from Drake. When I hear them and they happen to be dope, I love them. But I like Drake's production when he gets in his R&B bag. I like those songs. I just like them. They sound good. They're just dope. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, that doesn't mean I like everything this dude does. I feel like he basically is hit or miss with me now. And I've found in recent years that I like the projects more than the albums. So let's get started. The name of the project is Dark Lane Demo Tapes. It was just released. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. But 14 tracks on here, which is a healthy amount when you're talking about a bunch of loosies. Some of these songs you've heard before because, again, loosies get released here and there or wind up on mixtape somewhere. But they're all in one place, all mastered and good to go. Couple of guest features here like Chris Brown and Future's on here like twice. Playboy Cardi's on here. And the project itself is a mixture literally of rapping Drake and R&B Drake. And what I think I like about this project the most is it's a balance, right? 14 songs, 50 minutes, perfect length. And they all kind of go together. It feels like it's sequenced in a way where it all works. He starts out with 2 rap, actually I think 3, basically rap records. Mostly he's rapping a lot on here, but it ain't all hardcore rap. He even has a song called When to Say When, which uses the beat from Jay-Z's Song Cry. Obviously, people start getting on Twitter and social media and start debating, yo, he can never make a song better than Song Cry. Who cares? It still sounds dope to me. Always loved that beat. Didn't feel like he tarnished it with his rhymes. It felt like it fit what he was rapping about, right? But one thing I'll say about the album is it starts off pretty heavy with him rapping and eventually weaves into let me not say that. He's rapping a lot on here, right? But it starts out with original Drake rapping. Like not Jack and Flo's Drake, like the Drake you knew from way back when he first dropped Young Money, you know what I'm saying? What was that, 2010, 12 or whatever, around the time he started coming out or whatever, maybe early, who knows. But I feel like it starts out with that Drake, which is the rapping Drake I prefer, and eventually gets into the Migos flow, like just the flow trap rapping, that version of Drake, right? Mumble mouth Drake sometimes and stuff like that. So now I will say this. Typically, I don't like that Drake at all. But I feel in pockets, I like certain records. Honestly, some of it really depends on the production. If I vibe with the beat enough, and I know hip hop heads, you probably either already left or you're still here, you're saying, well, how can you vibe if all the beats sound the same? Yes, they do for the most part. But you can tell the differences and nuances, and some joints are just a groove. It's not really about being the best beat or being the best rapper. It's more about the emotion behind the record. And brothers like me like to have a little drinky drink and smoke a cigar, and I could chill out to some of those records. So I like some of those records. I really like when he teams up with Future. I just think they complement each other with that style. Some of my favorite records off of here so far: Deep Pockets, When to Say When. I like Chicago Freestyle. Not the biggest fan, but I kind of like it. Not You Too with Chris Brown. I think they also make a great team. I do not like 2C Slide. I don't care what anybody says. You cannot convince me that it's a good record. I don't care if it's a hit. I don't care how many TikToks you make. I feel like it is one of the corniest records ever made. But I understand why he made it. Why? Because he can. It's just as simple as that. Drake is just in that lane where he can make what he wants. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. And I would never be mad at other people for liking it, because that's your prerogative. I like Desires, which features Future. I like D4L, you know what I'm saying? That features Future also. But this is what happens on this project that I don't like. I feel like it gets really weak by the end. To me, I feel like when I hit play on this, I listened to this album 3 times, by the way, and not back to back to back, but I gave it some breathing room. And I feel like, as far as for what I like from Drake, I went a good 4 records before I skipped 2C Slide. But then I went a couple of records before I felt like I wanted to skip again. I probably, maybe somewhere around track 10 or 11, there's 14 tracks on here, is when I was just kind of, well, let me not say that, maybe track 8, and then it was spotty. So I feel in general, when you're talking about how is that album, Dark Lane Demo Tapes, I would honestly say starts off pretty strong, gets a little spotty towards the middle to end. It's not a bad project. It's a good album, or project. I feel like it's something, I would listen to this joint every now and again. Will it remain in heavy rotation above other albums I like a little bit more, that remains to be seen. I just kind of feel like it's a vibe. It's a vibe that fits the changing seasons, even though we can't go outside. Well, we can go outside, but we gotta be masked up. But I there's enough here that I like about it to like it, because again, I feel like I've always liked the Lucy projects more than I've liked the recent, like his last album, which I believe was the Double Joint. That's when he was, in the beef with Pusha T and all of that. I wasn't really a fan of that joint. But when he releases these type projects, I don't know, something about them are just cool. And they don't feel like too much, and they feel like, things he was just trying here and there, and he just doesn't have a home for individual songs. So he puts them together nicely in a package, and you take it if you will. So if you're a big Drake fan, I think you will be satisfied. If I'm a Drake fan, but I don't like everything he does, you might not like this, because it's just not enough of the Drake rapping that some dudes, the old Drake rapping, that some dudes like about him. They're gonna feel like after 2 records, they're out. Because that's how the album starts. It just starts with 2 records that crowd can vibe with, and then it just goes into what you're accustomed to hearing on the radio. And for some fans, that's actually a good thing, because they like some of those records. So it's a very mixed album. I would recommend it to people who's liked a lot of his recent material. But again, if you don't like Drake, if you don't like where he's been going with his music lately, you're probably not gonna like this. Especially if you think 2C Slide is whack, but I don't think there's anything on here as whack as that record. That's going to do it for me. Again, you can follow me on social media at Vegas World INC, and please know that this podcast and all of my other podcasts are available wherever you get your podcasts. All you got to do is hit that search icon, type in the words Hip Hop Now Podcast, subscribe, and you'll be locked in. Until next time, y'all, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace. Drop it on the random.